Okay, so today you should be able to finish up chapter 20, the mission of the Spiritists. The title of the chapter, of course, is Workers of the Last Hour. And I think this mission of the Spiritists that is bringing to us, but none else, by Erastus, who is the missionary who was to assume the responsibility to guide mediumship, mediunity for us. Because the next chapter that we're going to deal with false prophets and false Christs will deal a lot with this issue of being true representatives of this wonderful doctrine. So just let me close this because we don't need to be distressed by my ugly face. And we continue. All right. It's big enough to read. If not, I can make it bigger.
It's okay. It's okay. I could read it. Okay.
Let's do it then.
Okay. The Mission of Spiritists, number 4. Do you not already hear the rumbling of the tempest that must do away with the old world and engulf in nothingness the sum of earth's iniquities? Bless the Lord, you who have put your faith in his sovereign justice, and who, as new apostles of belief revealed by prophetic voices on high, go forth and preach the new tenet of reincarnation and of the elevation of spirits, according to whether they fulfilled their missions well or badly, and how they bore their earthly trials. Fear not, tongues of fire are upon your heads, O true followers of Spiritism. You are the chosen ones of God. Go and preach the divine word. The time has come in which you must sacrifice your habits, labors, and futile concerns to its propagation. Go forth and proclaim it. Spirits from on high are with you. Of course, you will speak to individuals who will not want to listen to the voice of God, for that voice incessantly calls them to selflessness. You will proclaim disinterestedness to the greedy, abstinence to the desolate, and kindness to and kindness to the greedy, abstinence to the desolate, and kindness to domestic tyrants as well as to despots. Wasted words, I know, but what does it matter? You must water with your sweat the ground that you must sow, for it will not produce a crop except through repeated efforts of the evangelical hoe and plow. Go forth and proclaim. Yes, all you men and women of good faith, who are aware of how small you are as you look at other worlds scattered throughout the infinite. Set out on a crusade against injustice and iniquity. Go forth and reverse this worship of the gold calf, each day more and more encroaching. Go, God will guide you. Simple and unlearned men and women, your tongues will be loosened and you will speak as no other orator speaks. Go forth and proclaim, and attentive peoples will joyfully take your words of consolation, fraternity, hope, and peace. What do the traps that will be set for you along your way matter? Only wolves fall into traps for wolves, because a shepherd knows how to defend his sheep against such murderous butchers. Go forth, men and women who are great before God, and who more blessed than St. Thomas. Believe without asking to see, and accept the fact of mediumship, even when you have never been successful in obtaining it yourselves. Go forth, the Spirit of God is leading you. Press onward, magnificent phalanx of faith, and the great battalions of disbelievers will vanish before you like the morning mist at the first rays of the rising sun. Faith is a virtue that moves mountains, Jesus said. However, impurity in all its vices lie heavier than the heaviest mountains on the heart of humankind. So go forth with courage in order to move this mountain of iniquity. which future generations will know about only through legend, just as you yourselves know only very imperfectly about the period of time prior to pagan civilization. Yes, moral and philosophical upheavals will occur at all points on the globe. The time approaches when the divine light will be shed over the two worlds. Go forth then, take the divine word to the great ones of the world who will scorn it, to the learned who will demand proof, to the small and simple who will accept it, because it is especially among the martyrs of labor, that earthly expiation, that you will find zeal and faith. Go forth with candles of thanksgiving and songs of praise to God. They will receive the holy consolation you bring them, and they will bow their heads in thanks for their portion of earthly afflictions. May your phalanx be armed with resolution and courage. Get to work. The plow is ready. The soil awaits you. Now you must work. Go forth and give thanks to God for the glorious task he has entrusted to you. But bear in mind that among those called to Spiritism, many have gone astray. So watch your course and follow the way of the truth. Question: if many of those called to Spiritism have gone astray, by what signs do we recognize those who are on the righteous path? Answer: we'll recognize them by the principles of true charity that they profess and practice. You will recognize them by the number of afflicted to whom they take consolation. You will recognize them by their love for their neighbor, their selflessness, and their personal disinterestedness. You will recognize them finally by the triumph of their principles. For God wills the triumph of his law. Those who obey his laws are the elect, and he will give them victory. However, he will crush those who falsify the spirit of that law and who make it a stepping stone for satisfying their vanity and ambition. Yes.
Okay, so Erastus, the medium's guardian angel. So it's the one that actually assumed the responsibility of guide the work of mediumship, right? Paris, 1863. It's a very strong invitation and almost like a command, right, of a enlightened spirit to invite us to go forward and work. Would the mission of Spiritists be different than the mission of Christians? And for that answer, each one will respond for themselves, but we understand that the Spiritism is the promised consoler, right? You understand that Spiritism is a promise from Jesus that he would send it to us, the Spirit of truth, at the time that we would be ready to receive that counselor. And if you go back to chapter 6, the promised consoler, and I'm going to read the passage from Jesus from John chapter 14, when Jesus says, "If you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray to my Father, and he will send you another consoler, so that he may remain with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. But as for you, will you know him, because he will remain with you and will be among you. But the Consoler, who is the Holy Spirit, whom my Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will enable you to remember everything that I have said to you." Again, from John chapter 14, verses 15 to 17, and then on 26. So the missions of Christians is to seek to understand and apply the teachings of Jesus to the best of our abilities. Is the mission of the Christian is to be able to educate ourselves, to transform the intellectual education into a spiritual education with the intelligence of the heart, because then we'll be able to reflect that education into actions, doing good, right? And that is being optimistic. I believe the future of humanity. How long it's going to take is up to us. Now, what Erastus is telling us here, that the mission of the Spiritists, at least in our days today, in the world that we live today, is a little bit different and goes one step ahead in my understanding. That we received the consoler, the promised consoler, which was not sent for one group of individuals. Now, Jesus would not have also have the selected ones, and he chose the spirituals to share this consoler. No, it's for humanity, it's for everyone. But the spirituals are the ones who were opened to this message, who were open to this new revelation, who were able to elevate ourselves beyond our atavisms, beyond the dogmas and beyond the rituals, and be able to associate reason with religiosity or spirituality, if you prefer, to receive this new revelation that destroys a lot of taboos, a lot of dogmas. And it's not easy for everyone to be fully open to it, because we need to liberate ourselves from a lot of other things. But we did whatever led us to it. And now we have a mission. And the mission is to pass it along to all. Of course, to all who has ears to hear, who has eyes to see. Because what we can do is take again the horse to the water, but we cannot make the horse drink it. But it becomes our mission now to lead the horses to the water. Are we better than them? Absolutely not. Are we more evolved than them? Absolutely not. But we were able to open ourselves to it, to receive it, to accept it. I'm not going to say to understand it, but I would say for sure in the process of understanding it, applying ourselves to understand it, that are very comfortable to say that it's factual. So let us tell us that we need to go forward and pass it along. Why? Because it's good for everyone. Why? Because if all of us are able to fully understand what this new revelation brings to us, it will bring tremendous amount of consolation for us. The idea, to understand in the process of reincarnation, the idea to understand of the perpetuation of our lives as we are, the certainty that we are in the pathway of progress, the certainty that the struggles, the difficulties that we face today will end up leading to something good, that is indeed, or the bitter medication that will cure us for our illnesses and of course us at the eternal spirit, or are necessary lessons for our betterment, that it may not be very pleasant, as we go through it, but will produce good fruit. If we understand all those things, we will be able to, one thing, minimize our suffering. Two, be able to undergo our trials without rebelliousness, and with the certainty that there is better days ahead. And the application of the teachings of Christ, the application of charity to the best of our abilities, benevolence, indulgence, forgiveness, is indeed the best, if not the only, solution to eliminate majority of the suffering that we go through, because there are things that we're gonna have to go through regardless. It will make for a better world. It will help to minimize suffering. We have to minimize poverty and ignorance throughout. If we all start to share what we have, it will make it for a better world. But it gives reason for it. It explains why. It gives the idea that, not the idea, it gives the teachings that our loved ones are not lost forever, not gone forever. That the mother who lost the young child will be reunited when those relationships are based on true love. This tremendous amount of consolation. And that makes for a better world. And so what they have to tell us here is go forth and share it now. Christians, yes, all of Christians, trying the best to apply the teachings of Christ, but now with an understand of why. Now with proof, with palpable proof of the values of the teachings of Christ, with the truth of reincarnation, of the truth of the perpetuation of our lives being what we are, not to become devils or angels, but in a continual process of evolution. So it says, go forth and preach the new tenet of reincarnation and of the elevation of spirits according to whether they fulfill their missions well or badly and how they bore their earthly trials. And again and again, it invites us to go and go and preach to everyone, we proclaim disinterredness to the greedy, abstinence to the dissolute, and the kindness to the domestic tyrants as well as to the despots. Wasted words I know, and warns us. Yes, there will those who will not have ears to hear. So wasted words I know. What does it matter? You must water with your sweat the grounds that you must sow, for it will not produce a crop except through repeated efforts of the evangelical hoe and plow. Go forth and proclaim. So telling us, it's not an easy, effortless project. There will those who you're not here. You're going to have to really dig in and water the soil with the sweat. There will be work. But everything that is good, that is worth it, requires work and requires effort. Unless somebody tells me something that is good and comes easy, because I can't name one, except when you create illusions of pseudo false happiness. But the true happiness requires effort, requires work. And he goes forth and goes on and on and on and says, go forth, don't worry about it, because the shepherd knows how to defend his sheep against such murderous butchers. So there are those who will go against those teachings, who go against those truths. Don't worry about it, because the shepherd will with us and knows how to defend us. And he continues, go forth, and then and take the divine word to the great ones of the world who will scorn it, to the learned who will demand proof, to the small and simple who will accept it because it is especially amongst the martyrs of labor, that earthly expiation, that way you find zeal and faith. Go forth. So the mission of the Spirit is according to Erastus. Again, the mediums, guardian angels, and I keep going back to it because it's not coming from anyone else. It's someone directly related to the Spiritism, because the whole doctrine is a gift from mediumship, right? It is from mediumship, inviting us to spread it, to go and to teach it, and follow the advice of Christ, knock the doors. If they do not open, shake the sandal, shake the stand for your sandal and move on. So, and paraphrasing Francis of Assisi, go forth and teach. And if it's necessary, use words. It was a very strong statement that act as an spiritist. And if it's necessary to use words, do so. Comments, questions? No? Okay. So what, item 5 now? Workers of the Lord.
Workers of the Lord, yes. Workers of the Lord, the number 5. The time is near for the fulfillment of those things proclaimed for the transformation of humankind. Blessed will be those who have worked in the Lord's field selflessly and with no other motive than charity. Their work days will be paid 100-fold more than what they expected. Brothers and sisters, let us work together and combine our efforts so that the Master may find the work accomplished at his coming. For the Master will say to them, "Come unto me, you who have been good servants, you who have known how to silence your jealousies and discords so that no harm will come to the word. But woe unto those who, because of their dissensions, will have delayed the time of the harvest. For the storm will come and they will be swept away in the upheaval. They will cry, 'Have mercy, have mercy.' But the Lord will say to them, 'Why do you ask for mercy, you who did not show mercy to your brothers and sisters, who refused to offer them a hand, who trampled the weak instead of upholding them? Why do you ask for mercy, you who sought your recompense in the delights of the earth and in the satisfaction of your pride? You have already received the recompense such as you wanted it. Ask for nothing more. The recompenses of heaven are for those who did not ask for the recompenses of earth. At this moment, God is taking a census of his faithful servants and is taking note of those who only have the appearance of devotion so that they may not observe the wages of courageous servants, because it is for those who do not recoil before their task that God will entrust the most difficult positions in the great work of regeneration through Spiritism. And when these words will be fulfilled, the first will be last, and the last will be first in the kingdom of heaven, the Spirit of truth.
Thank you. So Kardec finishes the chapter, Workers of the Last Hour, with a message from the Spirit of Truth. Some say the Spirit of Truth is Jesus Christ came herself, others think that is the collective enlightened spirits who put up this whole doctrine together. Each one decides for themselves where they fit themselves in these two sides. But it is a very strong statement. So basically, in my understanding, what the spiritual truth is, and keep in mind that it comes right after the mission of the Spiritists, right? And come right after this whole explanation of what it means to be the workers of the last hour that you have gone through. And perhaps going to have to go through a few more times to fully understand it. It comes to that, the idea here that the Spirit of Truth is telling us that progress is a law, it's undeniable, it's uncontestable, it is a divine law, and therefore it must and will prevail. For being perfect in its nature, coming from a perfected or the perfect being. That it is our job to move forward in accordance with this law of progress, receiving, accepting all the revelations being brought to us, learning and applying them from Abraham to Moses to to Socrates to Jesus, of course, and to everything, and to all the disciples, to all the workers of Christ that he have sent to help us to understand and to apply those laws. And again, from Socrates to Paul of Tarsus, from St. Francis, from Joanna de Angelis and Emmanuel, and Gandhi and Mother Teresa, and we can name hundreds and hundreds of true prophets, since the next chapter is false prophets. To be open-minded, to be intelligent, to receive it, to internalize it, to understand it, and to externalize it into actions. And again, words is action. And do our best to apply it. And those who seek to delay it, and it's very important that you use the word delayed, by all unto those who, because of their dissensions, will have delayed the time of the harvest. It didn't say stop it or burn that harvest, because it is impossible. All that you can do is to delay it. And by doing so, you acquire tremendous responsibilities or with yourself for seeking to delay or to act against those natural laws. But it's impossible. So the workers of the last hours, us spiritists, not only spiritists, but us also spiritists, who have accepted this new revelation, who's applying ourselves to understand this revelation, is to want to go forth and spread it to the best of our ability. So those have the ear to hear and eyes to see naturally. And at the same time, being 100% Christian, because the whole doctrine is indeed the simplified teachings of Christ, without the dogmas, without any rituals. And no one will be able to stop it. And those who seek to delay it carry with themselves tremendous amount of responsibility. And because we understand that this responsibility is greater for those who know more, the debt accumulated is higher for those who know more, we spiritists carry this heavy burden of knowledge upon us, which is a pleasure as well, but it demands that us to act on it. and being us, the workers of the last hour, accepting, being the ones sitting in the squares waiting for the master to come and invite us to work. We did accept. When the Lord come and say, hey, you sitting over there, why are you sitting over there? And we answered, oh, because nobody have called us. The Lord had said, okay, come and work on my harvest and we'll pay you what's fair. We accepted, we are doing the work, and we will receive what's fair. And what's fair from God is the only thing God has to offer us, love. And there is nothing more worth it than the love of God. Comments? Questions? Okay, so I guess we can move on and with the next chapter. Another challenge chapter. And we will see here how we know that by now, how Kardec used in all his books and in the whole doctrine in itself, a process of building blocks of nothing happens accidentally. He didn't put one chapter after the next chapter accidentally by chance, that everything is done with an objective. And then we see that there will be false Christs and false prophets really follows this chapter. Works of the last hour, and especially it follows the mission of the Spiritists over here, all that Erasmus has told us. In order to, in the chapter, the name of the chapters, there will be false Christs and false prophets. In order to be able to recognize falsehood, there is a necessity to understand truth, right? To know what is a true prophet. If I don't know what is a prophet, how would I know what is a false prophet? Mm. If I don't know who Christ is, how would I know who is a false Christ? So there is a building block over here, right? There is a necessity of understanding things before we can claim that those things that are seen are not true. Well, what do you know about the truth? Consider if it's truth or not, right? False prophets or pseudo prophets, false Christs or pseudo Christs. Who are they and what makes them false? In order to know that, we need to have at least a good understanding of what is the real deal, right? And Kardec also gave us a chapter, I believe it's chapter 4. I'm not going to go back there. No, but there is a chapter and in which Kardec explains what is a prophet to us in this book, right? And when he states was that unfortunately the word prophet have been more synonymous with the one who is able to see the future and predict the future. And if that may be one of the characteristics of the prophet, it's not really what it's supposed to mean. Mm. But if we know the present, we are able to predict the future with a certain degree of certainty, because of course nothing is written in stone. But if you know that if a car is without brake is going downhill, and at the end of the hill there is a big rock, one can predict that the car will hit that rock, right? Could something happen between there and here and there, he could, but the laws of probabilities will lead us to believe that a car going downhill without brakes, eventually something gonna have to stop it if they have no brakes, right? And if that rock along the way, yes, very good probability that that car will hit that hot rock. The prophets, knowing the situation, are able to make those predictions, but not based in supernatural attributes, but with reason. But the true prophet is the one who brings the messages from God. That was it's meant in the first revelation. So all those prophets, Ezekiel and Ishmael and those and that, they were the prophet was meant that the ones who bring the message from God. With the belief that they had that there was human beings kind of privileged to have that direct contact, receiving those direct messages from Christ, from God, and pass it over. So much so that one of the expressions that the prophet was to use, it says, God have told me. And then they will deliver the message. We, being Spiritism, say perhaps a work of mediumship. Perhaps the message comes from higher spirits trying to educate us. And so they bring to us they act with us pretty much as a teacher. They teach us things. Then Christ, what would be a Christ? A Christ is perfected the spirits according to Spiritism, right? One who have gone through all the stages of moral intellectual progress and have reached the level of complete purification and had a state of conscience so crystalline, so absolutely pure that it's able to reflect the love, the light of God without any deflection, without any impurity. Therefore, Jesus could say, my Father and I are one, because they have reached, because the Christ have reached that level of absolute purity that it reflects the will of God without any impurity. And we understand that Christ, Jesus Christ, being a governor and one of the planet or of the solar system, so some would say. And what is a governor? A leader, a teacher, a beyond a teacher is a leader, is one that leads, is the shepherd, in other words, shepherd. So it's in a position of leadership. So it's, we want to say, one step above the prophets. The prophets teach, the Christ lead, because they have all the knowledge already, right? So having those understand, we see here what would false prophets be based on those definitions that we have in accordance with Spiritism. We'll be able to have a better understanding of what it means when they say false Christ, when they say false prophets, and how we must use reason to be able to differentiate those. We can be challenged at times. Okay, any comments there? So let's read. I think we can read 1, 2, and 3. It's all right though.
Mhm. Yes. The tree is known by its fruit. Number 1, the tree that produces bad fruit is not good, and the tree that produces good fruit is not bad. For each tree is known by its own fruit. Figs cannot be picked from thorn bushes, nor can bushes of grapes be cut from briars. A good man brings forth good things from the good treasure of his heart, whereas the evil man takes evil things from the evil treasure of his heart. For the mouth speaks from what fills the heart. Number 2, beware of false prophets who come to you covered in the skins of sheep, but who on the inside are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruit. Can grapes be picked from thorn bushes or figs from briars? Thus, every tree that is good produces good fruit, and every tree that is bad produces bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not produce good fruit will be cut down and cast into the fire. Hence, you will know them by their fruit. Number 3, take care so that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ, and they will deceive many. Many false prophets will appear who will deceive many people, and because iniquity would abound, the charity of many will grow cold, but he who perseveres to the end will be saved. Therefore, if someone says to you, the Christ is here or the Christ is there, do not believe them. Do not believe him, for false Christs and false prophets would appear and would perform great prodigies and amazing things to the point of deceiving the elect themselves, if possible.
Okay, so we see here also that it is always very important. One of the things that Kardec use as much as possible, of course, is using the theory that there is truth in repetition, right? That in science, very often you can only declare an experiment to be successful, to be truthful, is when you are able to repeat that same experiment multiple times under the same circumstances and get always the same conclusion, get always the same result. Then you can declare that indeed this is truth, right? And very often in science, that is demanded, that you make, that in order to call that theory now a fact, you must repeat that experiment multiple times under the same circumstances and obtain the same result. Then it goes from a theory to a law, right? So you have the theory of evolution and you have law of gravity. You know, something has been repeated, proved, went from theory to law. And Kardec used that as a scientist, on building up his statements. He picks up messages or statements of Christ that has been repeated by different evangelicals that have been said, not necessarily the same words, of course. That would be very suspicious if every evangelical, everyone who walked with Christ would repeat word by word exactly the same. That would be a little bit suspicious, but everyone, the different evangelicals will bring the same message, saying with different words, because what really matters is the message. There is an evidence of repetition, and there is an evidence of the indeed Christ said that. Not always possible, but Kardec tries to do that in this book. So we've got here a lot of messages that pretty much brings the same message to us. Right? You have from Luke, you have from Mike, from Matthews, you have from everyone here basically. Matthews, Mark's, Luke's, as you see over here, that Christ repeatedly warns us of false Christs, false prophets. And of course, we just went through What would be a prophet? Would be a Christ in accordance to Spiritism. This is the gospel in accordance to Spiritism. Always good to remind ourselves that. One of the things that pretty much is said over here that a true prophet is revealed by its work. A false prophet declares himself, reveals themselves to others. I come from Christ, I come from Jesus, and they tell me to do this, they tell me to still tell that to you. Warning, no red flag. A true prophet works, and we realize through their work that this person can only be sent by God or by Jesus with a mission of doing something good, not because he's claiming to be, but because his work reveals it to us. Right? That's one way of us to make that differentiation. A pseudo prophet has to have a good marketing skill, so to say. A true prophet does not need one at all. It simply works for the sake of working. The word fruit is a very important word for us to put in perspective. Why does Jesus use the word fruit so often? Why Kardec likes to use the word fruit so much? What is a fruit? If you put with the knowledge of our sciences, right? How much effort, how much work comes to produce of a fruit? Has it come from a simple seed that falls into a soil that has the qualities to transform that seed into fruit, into a tree, and that tree may become a good or not good tree. If it become a good tree, it will produce only good fruits. If you become a bad tree, it will produce bad fruit. So it may all be trees, orange trees, and some will produce sweet juice orange, and some will produce dry or sour oranges. What makes it? What do you differentiate that? If you make an analogy to that, so tremendous amount of effort has been done, a tremendous amount of energy to go from a seed to fall in the proper soil, to overcome all the challenges and becoming a tree. And now it's time to produce fruit. A good tree will receive the light, the sunlight, and will convert it into a fruit. We, being trees that should produce good fruit, we receive the same sunlight as every tree, as every human being. We receive the light, the love of God equally, because God does not have preference. Just like the sun does not choose with trees where you share its light. He gives to everyone. God provides to everyone. When we purify ourselves, go back to the last passage that we read, when we are a clean vessel to receive the light, the love of God, will you reflect with purity, with fidelity, the light, the love of God? Will produce good fruit. If you carry within us the impurities, the things within us that reflect the light of God will produce the light, the fruit in accordance to what we have. Will corrupt, so to say, that light, and with that, and that fruit will express what we have, and not necessarily the purity of the love of God. So the good fruit, the good tree, I'm sorry, will produce good fruit. Will you express the beauty of the light of sunlight, and all the beauty of earth that will be converted into carbohydrates. That is the wonderful sweetness fruit called fructose. The batteries are not able to do that, will not be able to express the beauty from the soil, transform into fructose, and will be a sour fruit. We human beings receiving the love of God, being pure, we express the purity that love of God. Not being pure enough, have jealousy within us, have hate within us, have all the impurities of the eternal spirit within us, we will reflect those impurities in our work, and that will be a bad fruit. So a true prophet is one who had evolved enough to be able to pass along the purity of the messages without dogmas, without rituals, and that's why Spiritism is the teachings of Christ in its most simple form, because it's the most pure form. There is no need of drums, there is no need of songs, there is no need of special clothes, there is no need of anything else. The purity of the teachings of Christ being reflected in its simple, pure form. Because the doctrine is made by spirits that have reached that level of purity, that can express, can reflect those teachings in its pure form. And the true prophets, naturally, are the ones who are able, being messengers from God, to pass along the message in its most pure form. André Luiz Emmanuel, in one of his beautiful messages, says that the love of God is like water. It's like the water who comes from the very top of a very high mountain. And the love of God comes from the top of that mountain, pure, absolutely pure water. As it runs down the mountain, it passes to different kind of grounds, different type of soils, right? If the soil is full of iron, it would be an iron kind of water. When you taste it, you have the taste of iron in it. If it's full of sulfur, if it smells like sulfur, it will taste like sulfur, and so forth and so on. Whatever it goes through, the water will capture and have it in it. But the water is still there. If you remove the iron, if you remove the sulfur, the pure water is there. So the love of God is like that. It is completely pure. It comes to us pure. But when it reaches us, it will get the characteristics of us. So you get the sentiments that we have brewing in our hearts. If it's of jealousy, it will be expressed with our jealousy. If it's hate, it will be expressed with our hate. If it's pure, it will be reflected in its most pure form. And naturally, another way to differentiate the two prophets is see here, how is it being expressed? Being intelligent enough to make those differentiations. Anything else to add here? I think that's spoke enough about this. No? Okay, I think you can read that.
Okay. The mission of prophets, number 4. Prophets are commonly perceived as possessing the gift of being able to reveal the future, so that the words prophecies and predictions have become synonymous. However, in its evangelical sense of the word prophet has a broader meaning. It applies to all who have been seen by God with the mission of instructing humankind and revealing hidden the things and mysteries of the spiritual life. Hence, a person can be a prophet without making predictions. That was the notion of the Jews during the time of Jesus. Thus, when he was taken before the high priest Caiaphas, the assembled scribes and elders spat in his face, struck him with their fists, and insulted him by saying, "Christ, prophesy for us and tell us who struck you." Nevertheless, there have been instances in which prophets have had foreknowledge of the future, whether by intuition or by providential revelation, in order to transmit warnings to humankind. Since such predicted events actually occurred, the gift of predicting the future came to be regarded as one of the attributes of a prophet.
Well, I think accidentally I moved ahead and already commented the mission of prophets and trying to define prophets. I also spoke of the vision of the prophets in my ignorance, of course. But again, to define prophets in accordance to Spiritism, to accordance what it's meant in the first Testament, in the Old Testament, is the one who brings the message of Jesus, of God, not Jesus yet, of God, right? And not really meant to be the ones who sees the future or able to guess things with certainty, who are able to see with the eyes of the spirit, not with the eyes of the physical eyes. In order to be a true prophet, one must be purified to reflect that message from Christ and from God, I keep saying Christ, on its purity, and not deflect that message, not corrupt that message with the impurities that we carry within ourselves. So the mission of prophets is to be a messenger. And being a messenger is to be a teacher, right? Not necessary to know the future, but being pure, being reasonable, one may be able to predict the future, use reason, use knowledge, and not any special attributes to look ahead in the future. Comments, questions? So again, it's important that we know what is factual to be able to know what's not factual. One must know what is the truth to be able to claim something to not be truthful. It's very easy for us, and we do that very often, that you point fingers at this not be true when we don't know the truth. So now that hopefully you understand what is a prophet, then we can go to the next level and start to look at false prophets. And we started the prodigies performed by false prophets. So right up.
Okay. Number 5. False Christ and false prophets will appear, who will perform great prodigies and amazing things to the point of deceiving the elect themselves. These words provide the true meaning of the term prodigy. According to the theological definition, prodigies and miracles are exceptional phenomena that occur outside the laws of nature. Since the laws of nature are the work of God exclusively, God could obviously derogate from them if so desired. However, simple common sense says that God could not have possibly given unevolved and perverse beings a power equal to the divine power, and even less the right to undo what God has done. Jesus could not have consecrated such a principle. If according to the meaning of that has been attributed to these words, the spirit of evil has the power to perform such prodigies to the point that the elect themselves are deceived, the result will be that, being able to do what God does, prodigies and miracles are not the exclusive privilege of those sent by God. Moreover, they would not prove anything, since nothing would distinguish the miracles performed by saints from the miracles performed by the devil. It is therefore necessary to look for a more rational meaning for these two words. To uneducated common folk, every phenomenon with an unknown cause comes across as supernatural, extraordinary, and miraculous. Once the cause is known, it is realized that the phenomenon, as extraordinary as it may seem, is nothing other than the application of a natural law. In this manner, the circle of supernatural events shrinks to the extent that the circle of scientific knowledge broadens. For the advancement of the ambitions, interest, and domination, humans in all eras have exploited certain knowledge they possess in order to give themselves the privilege of supposedly superhuman power or a supposed divine mission. These are the false Christs and false prophets. The spreading of enlightenment destroys their credit. That is why their numbers dwindle to the degree that people become enlightened. The fact that they perform what, in the eyes of certain people, come across as prodigies is not, therefore, the sign of a divine mission, since it could result from knowledge that anyone may acquire or from special organic faculties that the most unworthy persons may possess, as well as the most worthy. True prophets are recognized by more serious, exclusively moral characteristics.
So prodigies performed by false prophets. Again, a false prophet would have to declare itself, would have to have a good marketing skills to spread and to make it believe what it states, that I am the one sent from God, that I have powers that is given to me by God. And very often the way that we can do this is by performing acts that attract, that are sensitive to our physical organs, that we can see, that we can hear, that we can smell. One is the example that I use very often is in the history of development of Brazil. And at the time there was called Bandeirantes. There was people that when Portugal was sent to the new land, to Brazil, in order to develop that area, and not really to develop it. In reality, what they want is to extract all the riches of that new world and bring to the old land than to Portugal. So in truth, the kingdom of Portugal at that time, that's 1700, would literally take people, guys who had been condemned for some kind of crime and say, you can go to jail and stay in jail a period of time, or I make a deal with you. I'll send you this new land. There's the minimums of wealth over there, diamonds, gold, emeralds, and you explore that, you bring to us, and you keep what, 30% of it. I don't know what the number was, right? So we have a choice here. You go to jail and stay in jail, well, you go over there and have opportunity to become rich. And of course, which one you choose, right? And many have sent to Brazil with that goal in mind, to really explore, exploit the land as much as possible and return home rich. And one of the guys, forgot what his real name was, ended up in the what now today's Minas, and was looking for emeralds. He was obsessed with finding the emeralds, and he could not find it. And he was there amongst the natives of the land, the so-called Indians, and he was convinced that the Indians knew where the emerald was hiding from him. Such a degree of obsession of this individual with those diamonds of becoming rich was blinded by the truth that the Indians did not care at all about emeralds. They didn't know what there was. But he was convinced that the Indians knew where to find the emeralds. So he came in with a plan. He put the liquid inside of a container, called the Indians and said, I am a special person sent by your gods. And if you do not tell me where the emeralds are, I will turn all your water into fire. And he lighted up the liquid in that container, and the liquid was set up on fire. And he was recognized as the Anagara, or the man who can make fire out of water in the Indian language. And he was considered a miracle man. He was considered a man of great power. What they didn't know is that the liquid inside there was alcohol, that the Indians did not recognize, that the Indians recognized as being water. For them, it was a miracle. It was extra, was supernatural, was something only the true messages from the gods, in their case, would be able to perform. That is obvious, a product of our ignorance, not understanding nature, and recognize things could have extraordinary power. He would not be able to fool none of us today, right? He would not perform that act and call it a miracle and call it a supernatural phenomena. I like to believe that all of us would not fall for that any longer. Easy to recognize that there was alcohol, there was cognac, there was vodka, whatever, but no one could set water on fire. I think we were pretty sure that. But they believed in extra natural power, supernatural powers, and individuals were able to do those things would be special beings. Was too bad for him, because the Indians really did not know what the emerald was, did not know anything about emeralds, and he ended up dying of malaria and never went back to Portugal anyway, and died poor in Brazil, actually. But there is an example that I like to use always when it comes to miracles, when it comes to prodigies, when it comes to special beings. In performance of acts that attract our physical senses. That have to be extra careful and understand it. We know that there is cases of spiritual surgeries being performed. We know there are cases of mediumistic physical phenomena being performed. individual being able to levitate, to lift the physical body off the ground, individuals being able to make things levitate, if not themselves. But we are evolved enough, at least intellectually, to understand that everything that happens has to be in the realm of nature. If it's the extra natural does not exist. If it happens, it's in accordance to nature. The fact that we do not know how it happens doesn't mean that it is extraordinary. Eventually you understand. The same way that we understand today that there are some kind of liquids that can be set on fire. At one point we did not know. And if they presented those things to us, not knowing, we would call it miracles, we would call it the prodigy. False prophets needs to attract us through our physical senses. False prophets has the need of show things to us that we do not understand, so we can call it extraordinary, that we can call it miracles. But when we evolve ourselves enough, you'll be able to distinguish them. True prophets do not need to do that. They do not do that. When a physical, medium physical phenomena, a medium who was able to perform spiritual surgeries perform it, it's not calling it a miracle. It's not calling it a prodigy. It's not calling themselves prophets. They are calling themselves intermediaries. They are calling themselves instruments at the hand of higher spirits who are able to perform those acts. And the doctrine explains it to us. Therefore, again, you go back to the mission of the Spiritism to spread its knowledge to others, so no one will be fooled by those little things that attracts our physical senses and call it miracles and prodigies, and hold those who are able to perform that as special beings chosen by God. So one of the things that the false prophets that will be able to differentiate the false prophets is by all those prodigies, those things that attract, that are entertained, that entertains our physical senses. And they will use that knowledge to seek to proclaim themselves as prophets. And again, if at that point that I proclaim myself as being a prophet, it is already a red flag. It may be true, be careful. But in general, the prophets, true prophets, will not proclaim themselves. Their work will proclaim them as being true prophets. Comments? No? That's a very quiet crowd.
I think that last sentence sums it up, that a prophet will not say that he is. He'll allow his works to say that who he is.
Yeah, and it says true prophets are recognized by more serious, exclusively moral characteristics. I think the word moral here is very important. You know, do I believe that there are some individuals come to the mission to bring us intellectual knowledge? Absolutely, yes. You know, individuals are able to guide our attention to some parts of the physical laws. Individuals who have developed for themselves intellectual ability will come with that responsibility to share it to us. I don't think that Einstein and many other names we can pick up, you know, Pasteur, are not somehow a prophet of physical things to help us to develop our intellectual abilities, develop our sciences, yeah. Could I call it prophet? It's a little bit stressing because by definition it says it's exclusively moral characteristics. That's very important. So because the doctrine itself, the whole thing of mediumship as Erastus again, and the one in charge of guide our mediumship throughout the process, says that the sole objective of mediumship is to upgrade humankind morally. Intellectually, we do a pretty good job at that, out of our material interest, out of our desire to make ourselves richer, we develop our intellectual ability, and it's good. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay, it's good. So we do a pretty good job at that. The life in the planet itself propels us forward to develop our sciences, our technologies, to utilize learnings from different aspects and put those learnings together and come out with something else, right? Like Francois Appert in the time that was discussing biogenesis versus abiogenesis, and he was a simple baker in France. He said, I don't care where life comes from, but if you're telling me that if I hit things hard enough, that food does not go bad, I will use that to my advantage. And he invented the canned food. Didn't care at all, but he wanted to make a profit, and that profit was good for humankind. It helped development humankind tremendously to be able to invent the canned food. It allowed expansion of us throughout this planet, carrying food that would not go bad. And he didn't do that thinking of progress of humankind. He did that thinking of, I can make money out of it. This is good. It's honest. It's good for everyone. A true prophet goes beyond that. It's not seeking for personal gain. It's seeking to the moral development of humankind.
Elmo,
Yeah.
a question from Carol.
Yes.
Yeah, in the Old Testament, the word prophet was capitalized, capital P, separating from lowercase p, prophets. Were the prophets in the Old Testament actually physical beings? I always wondered that. And who made the list separating the prophets from the lowercase prophets?
I really don't know the answer to that, Carol.
I don't either.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I really don't know the answer to that. I know that there is a work of Kardec that makes a differentiation of prophets, and I would not be able to expand on that right now because I'm afraid they're going to give falsehood, wrong message. But Kardec itself has a long and very deep differentiation of prophets of the Old Testament, and he defines that in 3 different categories. I will look into that, and hopefully in our Q&A, I'll be able to bring that to us. But right now, I can't answer that. I don't know.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always wondered that. Thank you, Alma. I appreciate it. Yeah, the description of the lowercase prophets is quite wonderful. It's very extensive, according to Kardec and Spiritism. So that's been very helpful, actually. Thank you.
Yep. No, sorry I don't have go. I can't answer you, but I'd rather not answer than give you the wrong message. It's 12:26. I'm not gonna go to the next one. Do not believe all Spiritism. One of my favorite sentences from John, right? But test them if they are from God. That we leave for the next month. Any other comments? Any questions? Okay, thanks everyone for participating. Carol, could you make a final prayer, please?
Sure. Thank you very much, Elmo. Very, very good, excellent discussion. And thank you everyone also for participating today. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful to be together again as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Gospel according to Spiritism. In accordance to the law of progress, may we have the gratitude and the will to endure and prevail. May we use faith, courage, and love to press forward, to repair and improve relationships, and to assist newcomers to the path of those seeking the truths of wisdom and Spiritism. Charity is love in action, and we try to do our best to be of assistance to others each day. A good deed is never lost, especially when the intention is pure, with no expectations in return. We use discernment to assess the truth, to sort the false prophets from the light of truth and the treasures of the heart and the love of God, which is the fruit of purity. To upgrade humankind morally is the key. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for inspiring us and guiding us. And may we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and our loved ones. We pray for all those in the world and in the physical world as well as the spiritual world who are suffering. And we pray for our center SGNY and all Spiritist centers throughout the world to grow, expand, and to prevail. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. We are never alone. There is always assistance as we ask, reach out, and we do our part. For we remind ourselves that charity is love in action. May we go forth now as beacons of light, in love, in peace, and in charity. So be it.
So be it.
Maybe.
So be it.